What is Natalie Gate? And what in the world just happened in the Florida Democratic primary? Is Trump at his lowest polling mark ever? And in the back half of the show, we'll be joined by Congressman Greg Landsman of Ohio. Welcome back to the podcast for the 54% of Americans who regularly vote for progress and want to convince their friends and family members to join our majority.
All right, Natalie Gate, which I'm actually not sure that's what people are calling it, but that's what I threw it in. On the
okay.
outline.
I thought it seemed entirely possible to me.
Maybe people are calling it that, but this emanates from a rather strange relationship between Trump and the human printer, this woman, Natalie, who works for him. Senator Ossoff kicked off the most recent round of Natalie Gate coverage with the following comments.
And while the sailors on the Lincoln fight his war, while he fruitlessly drains our munitions and oil reserves, the president sleeps through his meetings. He golfs and trades stocks. See, he doesn't want to do the job. He wants to build his ballroom and travel with Natalie on their apparently defenseless flying palace gifted by the Emir of Qatar.
Well, so first of all, first half of what he had to say, perfect criticism of Trump. Like I that is the best I've heard it. And I suspect the people in Ossoff's circle would be like, we wouldn't even be talking about this if the second part didn't come, because the reason why people are playing this clip is because he mentioned the unmentionable, this woman, Natalie, and Haberman's new book talks about this, but Maggie Haberman made some, like, if you followed her coverage of this book, she said there were some explosive things. You know, I'm not quoting her directly, but she said there were explosive tidbits that she had found that she couldn't get multiple sourcing on. And I have a sneaking suspicion it has to do with just rumors flying around about Trump and this young aide who has written him fawning letters and appears to think he is, the second coming.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying. I'm thinking about the controversy about this, and people are saying it's not fair to this young woman, which perhaps it's not. I'm not sure. But it is also true to say that he is traveling around the world with this fawning person who, and he is doing it at great expense while not really governing. So, and I know that we're going to get to some of the, well, why don't we do that? Let's get to some of the defenses of this so that I can comment on it. Sorry, I'm a little at a loss for words because it's hard to know what the heck to say about this.
Well, I think with when you say like it might be unfair to her, I've been thinking about this a lot this morning. Like what fairness do we owe people in a position like that? And I think it depends on how far you're willing to go, right? Like, to me, I have no idea what goes on between them. I don't even want to like suggest anything more than what we already know, which is it's weird just based on everything everybody agrees about, right? Like, we don't need to go so far as to speculate that there's something more happening. It's just weird. We don't have to go through all the letters. Like, she's written them these letters. They hang out together. But the
funny thing about it, Ravi, is that nobody is like, that's not fair to Donald Trump, because everybody understands that a young woman around Donald Trump, if he is attracted to her and he has an opportunity to engage in romantic behavior with her, there's very little evidence that he won't, whether married or not.
Right.
So the question is it fair to this woman who is mostly unknown, even though, she's been mentioned a time or two?
Well, let's go through some of the coverage of this. Megyn Kelly tweeted, Ossoff was clearly implying that Trump is having an affair with his staffer. Her words, not ours, Jason. He was so determined to disparage Trump, he didn't give one thought, or worse, he did, to how this would affect Natalie forever. Don't let the Democrats tell you they are for women. It's a lie. I mean, wow. What
I mean, the last line is a little bit of a stretch there, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it's as if Democrats, Maggie Haberman's reporting suggests that people close to Trump and in the White House were commenting to her at how inappropriate they felt this relationship was. That's where all of this started, not with Democrats. We just happen to be noticing what those sources are saying.
Yes. And as was pointed out, we have this Isaac Saul
you want me to read this for you?
Yeah, because
Isaac, a great journalist over at Tangled, he wrote, there was a time maybe 6 or 8 years ago where Ossoff's comments about Natalie Harp would have had me up in arms, but I'm so numbed by what the sitting president and many of the people in this screenshot, which he has screenshots of like all the right-wing people pearl clutching about this, have said or done in the last decade that it generally commands nothing more than a brief moment of my attention. Crude and unfair to her, absolutely, yet also not even remotely in the ballpark of the stuff we get on a daily basis from POTUS and from the right-wing media ecosystem in this graphic, and the pearl clutching after a decade of defending him is so inauthentic to be embarrassing. Correct. One right-wing figure, though, I hate to give him credit, was somewhat honest about this, and Jesse Waters on Fox News. Let's go to this clip.
He's done that his whole life. I don't think he's very upset about the comment. Am I fazed by this comment? No. Has Trump said so much worse, so much more sleazy things against other people? Yes. Have I defended those things? Absolutely. So I'm not going to pretend I'm all hot and bothered about it. And the president doesn't even care. He's like, what? Who? Oh, Pee Wee Herman? Next. Story was over.
The president does care, Jason. There's a lot of reporting on this. He cares. I imagine Melania cares. His spokesperson, Stephen Chung, tweeted the following: John Jackoff, this is their Ossoff.
I mean, God, what timeline are we in?
It has to be this is the White House, official White House communication. Has to be the biggest cuck loser in politics. Instead of denigrating hardworking people serving their country, which of course President Trump would never do, John should look deep into his soul and ask himself why he's a miserable person who hates this country. It's because he's a radical extremist Democrat.
I mean, okay, so that's the discourse. I think that actually the point here is less whether or not an affair is happening, and more that, and this you sort of have a bit to this point, is more that you have a president of the United States who is just more interested in going everywhere with sycophants. Yes. And yeah, obviously in this case, it is standard, kind of creepy old man behavior by Trump that he would like for those sycophants to be young and attractive women. But is the whole problem here, and to Ossoff's point, I think we have a clip about this potentially, is that there's nobody ever in Trump's orbit who does anything but tell him he's brilliant. Yeah. And it doesn't matter what you're in charge of. That is a problem. If you're the assistant manager at a car dealership and every idea you have is met with fawning praise, whether people believe it's a good idea or not, the car dealership will do less well. And yes, if you are in charge of the country and everything you say is met with everyone around you telling you what a genius you are and what a great idea that is, even when a lot of those ideas are stupid, that's not good for that country. That's really the point here. It's just that we noticed it because it's about this woman about which there are some rumors for her involvement with Trump.
Yeah, you mentioned Ossoff. He doubled down. Let's go to him.
Lots of people have questions about it. Why'd you decide to invoke Natalie Harp specifically in that speech?
Well, Jen, thank you for having me. And here's the point. We're in wartime. The commander-in-chief has mired us in this geopolitical disaster. People have lost their lives. Our naval logistics are frayed. The global energy system is in crisis. And he retreats into this bubble of West Wing aides who are his security blanket to make him feel good about himself, to reassure him that he's doing a great job, to help him while he designs his new ballroom and he adorns the Oval Office in gold and picks the interior decorations on this new luxury flying palace he received from a foreign prince. When every single minute of every single day, what the President of the United States should be doing is bearing his most solemn burden of care for the sailors and Marines and aviators and all service members deployed on his orders.
I think that, I mean, in the end, if you're an aide to Ossoff, who has been having quite a political moment, we've played a lot of his clips on here. This is how you inject Ossoff into the bloodstream. If you're like Ossoff's strategist, you're like, say the thing that gets people like us talking about him, and then make a point that helps the cause, right? Which is what essentially is how I'm scoring this, which is he hasn't said that they were having an affair. He's just pointing out that Trump seems to want to spend a lot of time with her. And then he pivots to how Trump is not focused on the right things. We could say it's out of bounds or whatever, but we're in bare knuckle politics land. I score this personally as totally fine. James Sawicki has a tweet that I think maybe we can leave the audience with, which I think captures my feeling on this, which he says, Natalie Harp, election denialist, former OAN anchor, and Trump obsessive, was the weirdest thing about Trump's 2024 campaign. And it's the weirdest thing about his White House, which is saying a lot. The issue is not that Trump is sleeping with her, and Ossoff didn't say it was. The issue is that she is obsessively, bizarrely fixated on him. She wrote him strange, gushing letters, quote, I never want to bring you anything but joy. You are all that matters to me. I don't ever want to let you down. Listeners, if you have a spouse, I just would ask you whether that quote, if that a coworker of your spouse wrote that to them, you would be concerned.
That's fair. That's a fair question.
Let me continue on this. She follows him everywhere, carrying a mini printer, giving her an inordinate influence over pieces of paper he actually looks at. In a White House full of sycophants, she is an uber sycophant. And the fact that she's the kind of person Trump wants around him is a perfect expression of what's wrong with his presidency. Shout out to James. That at least captures me, Jason, where I am on this.
Yeah, no, and well done.
Well, okay. Before we go to a break, I have this book coming out in September, and some exciting news to start off with, which is September 28th. In the first time since the middle of the pandemic, I think it was 2020, Jason and I will be doing a live recording of Majority 54 together in Kansas City. If you go to readinvisiblelist.com and you just click on the events page on there, and we'll also put this in the show notes, you can get tickets. This is the first time we're mentioning this at all. So if you want to secure your ticket, go out and get them right now. And with your ticket, you get a free copy of my book, which I will sign for you at this event. We're going to spend half the time talking about the midterms and half the time talking about the book. If you click on it, the Majority 54 aspects of it aren't clear yet, but we wanted to make sure the audience knew about this. So September 28th, Kansas City, first time in 6 years, we'll be doing a live recording of Majority 54. If you go to that events page, you will also see, for people in New York, September 22nd, you can come out and see me about the book. September 27th in Chattanooga, Tennessee, low key, one of my favorite American cities. And then October 6th in Nashville. So if you're in New York, Chattanooga, Kansas City, or Nashville, I'm coming your way. And in Kansas City, we're coming your way. Jason, anything else on that before we go?
I just want to reiterate that if you go to the page right now, it doesn't say anything about a live Majority 54, but it will. We're going to change the copy on there, but we're just telling the audience first that that's what it is so that you can go and secure your spot.
You heard it here first. Awesome. Well, we'll take a break. When we come back, we have an awful lot to talk about. A lot of elections. It seems like it's election day every week. Trump's record low approval ratings. More Rogan turning on Trump, just a lot to talk about and a special guest, all when we return. We're in the late stages of summer, and as it continues to heat up, stay fresh from sun up to sundown with Mack Weldon's Air Knit X fabric. It all started with underwear designed to wick moisture, fight odor, and give you maximum airflow. Now they're expanding that bestseller to a full line of essentials. Browse the full AirKnit X collection at MackWeldon.com. Plus, get 20% off your first order of $125 or more with the code MAJORITY. The AirKnit X collection is wildly comfortable, from the boxer briefs to the socks. I've never felt more confident and ready to take on the day, knowing how secure and fresh I am. In my opinion, Mack Weldon far exceeds so many of the brands that I've used before, all of them really. And it's this Mack Weldon AirKnit X fabric is now a summer staple for me. Their lightest fabric is fused with nylon mesh for maximum airflow. Your whole summer rotation and even your fall rotation could be covered, even the sweatiest parts. The whole collection started as underwear, boxers, briefs, trunks, and boxer briefs, and now includes undershirts, t-shirts, polos, socks. So this summer and the fall, add pieces that are built to last. Mack Weldon makes quality clothing that holds up longer than one rough season. Their designs balance classic pieces with updated details that keep you looking sharp. It's easy to style and versatile looks that you don't have to think about. Mack Weldon is effortless. I always have a hard time with this word. It's effortless by design. Mack Weldon clothes are designed to fit your style and the demands of modern life. For over 10 years, Mack Weldon has designed timeless, innovative menswear to help you move through the day with confidence, even if you're just hanging in your underwear. Don't sweat the heat this summer or the fall. Feel as effortlessly cool as you look with Mack Weldon. So go to mackweldon.com and get 20% off your first order of $125 or more with the promo code MAJORITY. That's MACKWELDON.com, code MAJORITY. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand used by over 1.5 million people. And what I hear from people is improved hair growth, less shedding, more confidence with every step they take. And Nutrafol has formulas built for men at different life stages. So they have Nutrafol Men for guys 18 to 49, and then the new Nutrafol Men 50 Plus, which is the first product of its kind specifically made for men over 50. And what they do is they address the root causes of thinning wherever you're at in life. You can grow thicker, fuller hair in 3 to 6 months, so no time. You order it now, it'll be ready in time for Thanksgiving and the Christmas holidays, right through the winter holiday season. Nutrafol is backed by peer-reviewed studies and NSF certified for sport, the gold standard for supplement quality. You know exactly what you're putting into your body. And here's something pretty cool. Nutrafol is the official hair growth partner of Major League Baseball. Those are guys who perform at the highest levels, and they trust Nutrafol to stay on top of their hair game. So start Nutrafol today and make the hat optional. Visit Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code MAJORITY for $10 off your first month's subscription and free shipping. Find out why Nutrafol is the best-selling hair growth supplement brand at Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com. Promo code MAJORITY. That's Nutrafol.com. Group code MAJORITY. More elections.
It is all the time.
I view this as an opportunity for me to bond with the audience, Jason. So anytime these things come about, it's an opportunity to come closer together with the many factions of our audience. And this one, I'm just not taking the bait. I'm going to report this one straight, audience. I'm not going to give you anything for me on this one because I was not paying that much attention to it.
Yeah, I don't know enough about this one, even though I know the Vindmans a little bit.
Well, Vindman was on this pod.
That's right. Yeah, and I like them.
So Angie Nixon, who is state legislator, defeated Colonel Vindman, who was kind of stood up to Trump and got in the news about all that. And Trump.
Let's be real clear. Like, the guy's done a lot of heroic stuff for the country, not just standing up for Trump. I mean, he's a Purple Heart recipient. He's a great patriot. I just don't know Angie Nixon at all. I'm sure she's great.
For sure. Yeah, I did a little cursory reading, and we could talk a little bit about that. But what's notable is she didn't put up a single TV ad. Vindman had 16x as much money as her. Seemed to think he had it wrapped up because he ended the race with, according to Shane Goldmacher, potentially $7 million in the bank. So this was a shocker. There are all kinds of explanations for what happened here. I honestly don't know, but this was going to be a tough race before. So Cook Political Report before the election had it likely R, and now they moved it to safe R, I think in part because they viewed, whether you agree with this or not, they viewed Vindman as a stronger general election candidate. This is notably a closed primary. So if you're trying to be like, why, polls are off everywhere. Like, what explains this particular shocking result? I imagine a lot of things, but one of them is that in Wisconsin, for example, it was an open primary, so independents were able to weigh in there, which obviously favors the more quote unquote moderate of the candidates. In this case, that wasn't true, but I'd be lying if I said I knew a lot about what was happening in Florida. This was a tough race no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few other elements just to consider here, which is that Colonel Vindman, while in many respects a great candidate, a very qualified candidate, it is important to remember that he moved to Florida 3 years ago.
Yeah.
He moved to Florida 3 years ago, and he's never run for office before. And now, he's running for United States Senate in one of the largest states in the country. So that should at least affect your expectations somewhat. And to his credit, he had nice things to say about Angie Nixon in his concession speech. Talked about she ran a great campaign. Clearly she did. She's held office before. From everything I've read just today, clearly she's a really dynamic campaigner. Probably the reasons that Cook Political Report moved it to say far from lean might have to do with her place on the left-right spectrum, but it might also have to do with the fact that she raised less than $1 million in that campaign. And it may simply be that, they thought that the candidate that had raised $16 million was going to be a more formidable general election candidate. Now, that said, she may be about to be blasted into the progressive internet stratosphere, and she may be about to raise a ton of money. And we'll see if perhaps that causes them to adjust their assessment. But
yeah, I don't know if it's everybody's exhausted or not. Like, I obviously am about this, but I peeked on Twitter and it just seemed nobody's heart was in this fight. Like, I'm looking on it, and like her supporters, people who are against her, the people who are critical of the DSA, the people who are pro DSA, nobody, I mean, other than, the names that I say every week on this pod, other than a few people, nobody seemed to have the heart to fight this one out, which I think is a good sign for the general. I think most people are moving to the general election in their heads. I mean, these primaries are going on forever. It's August 19th. So kids are going to be back to school in a lot of places in the South. They already are back to school. So people are looking ahead to this general election. Now, I actually think the governor's race is shaping up interesting. I saw some polls there that look good for Democrats. It's Florida. Again, like we just want to be competitive in as many places as possible. Who the heck knows where we overperform or not? But it's going to be Byron Donalds on the Republican side. But he had this James Fishback, super right-wing character to his right, who most people thought didn't have a chance, but he performed really well with young people, and we'll know more as time goes on. But he killed Byron Donalds, I think 89-4. In Florida State University's precinct. Not a huge precinct, but this dovetails what everybody acknowledged, which was Fishback is riding a wave of enthusiasm on the Republican right. And I think this gets to something I've been saying for a while, which is there's this sort of sense, both parties have this dialogue right now that it's just, we got to follow the young people. And in general, my feeling is, no, we need to listen to their concerns. We need to know the challenges that they face. We need to include them in the political process. But we need to lead and challenge anybody, whether that's young people, old people, everybody in between, because I don't think by nature of your age, you are entitled to anything. And I think if you just peek across the right and take our politics on the left out of it, the younger faction is actually super extreme.
In either direction.
It's not bright,
Yeah. What's also interesting about that gubernatorial primary or gubernatorial race is one, I mean, you've got David Jolly, who I believe is a former Republican congressman in Florida. I know I did TV with him. We may have had him on the show before. And he won it pretty handily. Interestingly, we're always, it seems like, referencing law school classmates on this show. Yes. My law school classmate, Dodie Joseph, who's a state representative down there, ran in that primary and finished third, but got into the race pretty late. But that could be an interesting race, because now you're going to have like Byron Donalds, who seems to, he's a pretty MAGA candidate, running against like what seems to be kind of the Democratic Party of Florida's move a lot, is a former Republican who's a moderate Democrat. And so that'll either potentially work or be like a tired play that doesn't work. It'll be interesting to watch.
We have so many data points on the board this cycle, so it'll be interesting to see. And I think, my general feeling, I've said this for a long time, is that primaries are really important. And by and large, why we let them play out, usually without getting too hot and bothered over like endorsements and things like that in the primaries, is because they're actually a test of different ideas and theories about where to go. And now we have multiple different kinds of theories on the board. So we will get to compare performance across many different states and put it all together. And we'll have multiple examples of different theories on the board, and be able to say, not just did you win or lose, right? Because I think that can be simplistic and unfair to people, no matter what your beliefs are. But did you overperform other types of candidates? Because often in these states, we have governors, we have senators. And so you could say, okay, did you perform better than your Secretary of State? Did you perform better than your governor candidate, better than members of Congress in their congressional districts? And then we could look at it and say, well, what did we learn about this electability argument? And electability is not everything, but it means a lot to a lot of people. Now, a couple of things here, also on the electoral side. Randy Fine beat Dan Bilzerian. Bilzerian I didn't even know he was running, but Bilzerian is like a right-wing media figure who, he wrote this crazy book that I scanned a while ago, and I did something about the manosphere, in which he like talks about sleeping with porn stars, and as Jeremy says, like a Andrew Tate type, super anti-Semite. This scary stuff going on over there. Randy Fine is also a bigot, so it's just wild. Like, this is their primaries, and so maybe by a hair, Randy Fine is less bigoted. But it's really shades of the same color here. But on our side, Peltola showed real strength. Alaska's weird because you have everybody on the same ballot essentially. And then in the Senate primary, the top 2 vote getters emerged, but Peltola had significantly more votes than her Republican counterpart. And so I think Alaska's still on the board, man. I think Alaska is a really strong state for Democrats right now.
Yeah, Alaska is always a place that can surprise everybody, it seems like, because it's like a conservative leaning Western place, but it's also, the place where like Murkowski feels like completely safe taking positions that are pretty anti-Trump, because it's more Western conservative than it is Republican by far. Yeah. It's more that Goldwater-ish people. Most of the people there, their family went there for a reason at some point.
Yep. Yeah. Well, here's Chuck Todd, and this is hopium for sure, but I'm giving it to you, audience, anyway. He says, easily the most important result of Tuesday. This is about the best poll you could have going into November, and he means poll because it's actual voters. He says actual voters, and the fact that Peltola is this close to 50 in round 1. She could be over 50 by the time this podcast airs, maybe, but one could justify shifting this race already to lean Dem from toss-up. And remember, if Dems can win Alaska and it's a 50-50 state, are you sure Lisa Murkowski stays caucusing with the GOP? She cares a lot about what the voters of Alaska want, and I can picture her justifying the switch because it's what Alaska voters want. I don't know, but I would like to believe what he's saying, man. Like, that's a good thing to imagine. I have no reason to think he's right, but that's a wonderful thought experiment.
Yeah, that's unlikely to happen, because if you're Murkowski, I mean, it's possible. I suppose it's possible that she stops caucusing with them and goes to, but I really doubt it, because there's not really an advantage in doing that, because she hasn't like towed the line in every way with Trump, and she could always, if she sees things going that direction, she could always step up the, like being the person who stands up to Trump thing if she needs to.
Yeah. I mean, other than Fetterman, who deserves his own special category, I can't think of a senator in recent memory who has been as wily and unconventional as Murkowski. And she's not my cup of tea. She still goes way MAGA way more often than I would imagine. But she, remember, lost her primary and won as a write-in. So she's she's an absolute titanic figure.
Which means she doesn't need to do, in her mind, she doesn't need to do anything to pander. She'll just keep doing what she does. And
basically getting like You remember Bridge to Nowhere? The funny thing was the
Yeah.
Bridge to Nowhere was this huge scandal. Murkowski's been building bridges to nowhere ever since the Bridge to Nowhere, but our politics have changed where that's not a scandal anymore.
Well, the
yeah.
better argument, I know we got to get to the break so we can bring in our guest, but the better argument by Todd there would be that if Murkowski is really just tired of being in the Republican caucus and genuinely wants to switch caucuses, then because she feels like she could get elected no matter what letter is next to her name, which may be true, this may be the thing that causes her to say, well, screw it. I mean, if they're going to get the majority, I'll just go with them. And that's better for Alaska because I'll be in the majority. I mean, that's possible.
Yeah, well, think about it. Like, if Democrats win the governorship and Senate, and they maintain the congressional seat there, and you're looking at, okay, people are preservationists. Like, what's the most likely threat to me at this point? Is it a Democrat beating me or a Republican primary? Right. The Republican primary is probably your biggest threat at this point if you're Murkowski. So yeah.
That's
okay.
true.
Well, one last thing before we bring our guest in here, which is we have a new primary calendar. This is fun stuff from David Plouffe in the New York Times. And I'll quote from over the weekend, the Democratic National Committee formally approved perhaps the most consequential primary calendar shakeup in decades, creating an early window that features more states. The nominating contest will start in South Carolina, head across to Nevada, then northeast to New Hampshire. First-time early states in New Mexico, Michigan, and Virginia round out the early calendar in that order. One candidate at most two will exit Virginia with a credible path to being the Democratic nominee. Jason, you were in this mix at one time and traveling to some of these early states. What do you think of this calendar? And what kind of candidate do you think it benefits?
Well, you're more likely to get a candidate that is, I mean, like, let's be honest. When you had Iowa and New Hampshire first, it favored candidates who were probably a little bit more moderate and more likely to be white, to be honest. I think you can make a good argument that this calendar makes it not more likely that you're going to get a candidate that is a person of color, but it probably makes it more equitable in terms of everybody just having sort of more of an equal opportunity to run and get a fair shake. What I would say the downside is when you're not starting with like a couple of smaller states. I know you start with South Carolina, but like when you're not starting with like the big gaps, what you do lose is that sort of test that got us people like Obama, people like Bill Clinton, people who, I mean, you work the Iowa caucus, but people who like really thrive when a group of people get to really vet them and they have to spend a lot of time in a place. So I think there's some pros and cons. What about you?
South Carolina being first, man, that is interesting because South Carolina has been a graveyard. I think this is Plouffe's quote, the graveyard or a trampoline, depending on who you are.
Yeah.
And I think it makes the politics more material. And what I mean by that is like South Carolina has a deeply poor areas in a way that you just can't. And I think Iowa has its own version of the story, but in South Carolina, it's some of the highest poverty I've ever seen. And obviously it's a huge Black population and they are not very faddish in their politics. They're also not, like, to my point last week, they're a little less like inspire me and more like cynical. They're more just like, hey, like I need to trust you. And I think that could make some interesting politics, but I also think like it's small enough that the retail will matter, and it will be interesting to see people going in and out of some of these communities. I almost thought about going down there and renting a house just to see, like, pop in and out of there, because I do think the texture of South Carolina, as somebody who spent a lot of time in the South, I'm excited for the South to take prominence, because I do think like some of the things I've wanted to see, which is a clearer educational message, a clear anti-poverty message. I do think the healthcare politics will be very important here. And as somebody who actually probably aligns more with the far left on Medicare for all and things like that, I think this will allow for some interesting politicking, and I'm glad that state comes first. And Black voters deserve it. I mean, the Black voters have been the most consistent Democratic constituency for so long. And I generally try to avoid the identity politicking, but to the extent you have to pick a state that has a high percentage of Black votes feels respectful to a constituency that has been central to the party.
Here's a practical thing. You asked for my opinion based, as somebody who pretty much ran for president and did this gauntlet. Not with the exception of Michigan and I guess Virginia a bit at that time of the year, not a lot of these states are freaking freezing cold. And so, I would have enjoyed this because it would have meant that because you got to whatever the first states are, you got to start. Yeah, but you got to start. You got to be there starting like 7 months beforehand when it's like, look, it is really cold in like January in Michigan, and so people are gonna have to be there. But it's not that way in South Carolina, so that'll be kind of nice.
Yeah, well, and we'll, you know, we have more time. We'll talk about some of those later states because I do think that is a fun mixture with very different politics. And Pluff writes about it. Go read it. I think it's very interesting. Pluff's a smart guy. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we have a special guest. We're going to talk about Trump's historically low approval ratings. We're going to talk about Trump's threat to bomb Oman. That's not I'm not misspeaking. He is another country he wants to bomb. And then we have some interesting Rogan politics when we get back. So I'm in my early 40s and suddenly everything that used to be easy just isn't anymore. And it's hard to talk about, but it has to be said. Nobody tells you about this stuff. One day you're crushing it and next day you're wondering why everything feels twice as hard. Because here's the thing, you know, most men start losing testosterone around the age 30 and 1% every year after that. It's scary math. And that's why I started taking Mars Men. And here's what I learned. Your body makes testosterone, but a lot of it gets locked up and can't be used. And there's this protein called SHBG that basically handcuffs your testosterone. Even if your body's making testosterone, SHBG locks it up so you can't access it. It's like having money in the bank, but your debit card doesn't work. So Mars Men is designed to help free lock testosterone so that your body can actually use it. No synthetics, no needles, just real ingredients that help optimize energy, focus, and strength. And since using Mars Men, I feel different every day. And especially now as I'm in recovery from my injury, it's more important than ever. Mars Men supports healthy T levels, energy, and stamina that has 8 natural, clinically dosed ingredients. It's also made in the USA and third-party tested. And there's a 90-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk. Worst case, you don't absolutely love it and you get your money back, but over 91% of users report higher energy levels. So for a limited time, our listeners of Majority 54 get 50% off for life, plus free shipping and 3 free gifts at mengotomars.com. That's mengotomars.com for 50% off and 3 free gifts when you check out. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about it, and please support our show and tell them that Majority 54 sent you.
I want to give you something practical this week because a lot of us are helping parents or grandparents navigate Medicare or staring down 65 ourselves. Here's the honest truth. Medicare is one of the biggest financial decisions people make later in life, and the system makes it needlessly hard. Hundreds of plans, endless fine print, and plenty of people whose job it is to talk you into something rather than help you understand it. Good people end up overpaying or on coverage that doesn't fit, and they usually don't find out until it matters. So save one number, Chapter. They're the only Medicare advisor that compares every plan in the country, and they're honest, not paid to push one plan over another. If the plan you have is right for you, they'll tell you exactly that. It's free, it takes under 20 minutes, and they've saved people an average of $1,100 a year. Call Chapter at 785-310-3391. Most wish they had called sooner. That's 785-310-3391. All right, Greg Landsman is a former teacher and Cincinnati City Council member, currently representing Ohio's 1st District in Congress, having defeated a 30-year incumbent Republican 4 years ago. Congressman, welcome.
Thanks for having me. How are you guys?
Very good. I will say you are the rare, no offense with this term, politician. I'm a recovering one. You know, the best of us do it at some point. Who we have on the show here, who neither of us have a prior relationship with. You just have a really good staff that was very dogged and very persuasive that you'd be a good guest. So no pressure.
Hey, all right. I will do my best. I would say the politician thing. I know you didn't mean it. I obviously, no offense taken. However, it is like the worst thing you can call me. Like I go around, people in my community, they know me as Greg, right? Because I was at City Hall for years, and I try to be out and about whenever I'm home. So town halls and community conversations, and go to the farmers market, all that stuff. So usually people greet me as Greg. My wife and I were leaving dinner the other night, and I was holding the door open for someone, and he recognized me, and he goes, "Oh, you're that politician," and then kept walking. And my wife was like, "I'm so sorry."
That's the worst.
I was like shattered.
There is a thing where it's like you're not a real human, the way people, and I think it's any level of celebrity. This is true, whether it's like local political celebrity or like, Taylor Swift. Like, I don't know. I find at this stage of my life, like I'm still a public figure, I guess. But I answer my own email, like at the contact form on my website, which obviously for several years, that wasn't the case. And I don't know if you have this experience, and Ravi, probably the same thing happens for you, where people send stuff and it'll be just so
they don't
awful.
think you're gonna read it. I get this all the time.
And then they say like, "I'm sorry, I thought like an intern would read it." And then it's a completely different personality.
Yeah. Happens to me all the time. Yeah.
This happens now on Spotify. Now I go on Spotify and reply to people, and they're like, "Holy shit! Like that's actually your name." They're like, "I didn't realize you read all these." And I'm like, "Yeah."
This is the one benefit. There's many benefits to social media. There are many, problems, and I got off years ago. But the one thing, I mean, we participate. I do a lot of content, but I'm personally not on it anymore. But I do like the fact that you can engage with just about anyone. Right. Like, and most people, it's really them who respond back. Sometimes it's mean, but sometimes it's nice, like, anyway, it does sort of, it has democratized the world in a good way.
Well, all right. Well, we're going to get into some like Greg Landsman specific stuff in a minute, but first you're here with us and we're going to keep going through this outline and you be part of that. So Ravi, talk about how Trump is doing. I'm guessing not great.
I'm curious if from an Ohio perspective, so Reuters just came out with a poll that shows Trump's approval at 33% and disapproval 64%. This is the lowest of his presidency, I think, in both terms. And you have some critical races in Ohio, and I know you have to say we can win them. But like and that we're gonna win. We're like, I know the coach talk and all that, but tell us something. Like pretend you're not on air. How would you really characterize our chances in this?
I would the same way I would off air. I mean, for the record, like I don't know. I just, in Ohio, you have, a lot of folks who are frustrated, mostly about the economy. It's the tariffs, it's the price of gas, it's the price of, their energy bills. The utility costs are a big deal here. The data centers have been a massive problem. The fact that there were tax breaks in the One Big Beautiful Bill to have these data centers come into our state, the fact that the state was giving out tax cuts to these folks, these billion-dollar companies, the fact that they signed NDAs and they did all of it, in secret, that's insane to our voters. So I think there's a very, likely chance, better than 50% chance that Amy Acton beats Vivek Ramaswamy for the governor's race, and Sherrod Brown beats John Husted. Like, of course, it could happen the other way. I think based on the results in Pennsylvania, that race where it was a huge swing, what was that, 18 points yesterday? If it's a 12-point swing, they win, and I suspect it'll be close. It'll be north of 10.
Yeah. Well, let me ask a sort of Ohio specific question, but also like the political environment question, particularly into your profile. So I found this poll this morning from Axios that says that most Americans, 63%, say that Trump and his family have inappropriately profited from cryptocurrency. And it says from, when we know about that scandal. But then it says nearly 7 in 10 Americans believe Trump's private business interests are influencing his presidential decisions, including 48% of Republicans. Now, none of that is news to anybody listening to this, but what I'm interested in is you've been a huge backer of not letting members of Congress trade stocks. And you, I think, also sold all your stocks like at some point, like a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah.
Now, credit due for that. Also, you came to Congress as a teacher and a city council member. So I'm guessing you didn't have the most stocks, but I think it still was still super important.
Well, I inherited money from my mom.
Okay, so you had a fair amount of stock.
I had a fair amount. I mean, it was not, no one should feel sorry for me, but
no. Full credit for actually doing the thing.
Yeah. It was like 170 grand in taxes.
Okay. Also full credit for just saying that just now. But all right. So that said, my question is a little different, which is obviously I think everybody listening to this and the three of us all agree with your bill and all agree with all of that and admire you for selling the stocks while being in office. My question is, Trump has been in our lives and has been corrupt as all get out for over 10 years. And sometimes that seems to have mattered electorally, and sometimes it hasn't. It feels like it kind of matters in the polls right now. And can you help me understand why that is now versus before? Like, what do you think is happening?
I think it's starting to affect people's lives, and they're, you know, it's they don't have to connect the dots. It's happening. Like they're doing worse. He's doing so much better, and the two are related, right? So take crypto, right? You brought up crypto. I was with a bunch of crypto folks yesterday, people who have invested, care deeply about it. They're in some ways a single issue voter because they've got so much invested in crypto getting regulated and being accepted as something that's something we're going to do, and so they got a lot riding on this. The biggest obstacle for them is his corruption, because banks are starting to use crypto, and we're getting regulation. It's becoming more and more accepted. And the thing that could derail the whole thing is the fact that he seems to be messing the whole thing up by creating a cryptocurrency, jacking up the prices. He's walked away with billions. The people who've invested in it have lost billions. And the biggest thing that could stop them getting a crypto bill done is the scandal, the corruption around Trump's coin. So like that immediately affects their lives. The same issue is true with the tax cuts and their healthcare. So he promises all these people that they're going to get rich, these super wealthy people. He campaigned all over raising hundreds of millions of dollars from the wealthiest people. He said, you're going to get so rich. I'm going to give you this incredible tax cut. Then he does, to pay for it, he cut Medicaid by $1 trillion. So like people are like, that cost me money. I think the data centers the third one is the data centers, where it's like he's running around with these big tech guys. They get whatever they want. They get everything. And simultaneously, they're coming into our neighborhoods without telling anyone, into our communities, building these giant, incredibly noisy data centers. And it's clear that he's on the other side of this. It's starting to affect their lives.
I think you're right. And I think the other interesting part of that is like when I think about the way Americans think about wealth, it's so different than, say, Europe, where I feel like in Europe, like the working class genuinely, oftentimes, historically, dislikes the wealthiest members of their communities just for having wealth. And probably a lot of that has to do with like, it probably has been passed down over more hundreds of years and that kind of thing. And so there's a real class difference. Here, it feels like every few years, there's a certain part of our side, the left, that expects Americans to act the same way. And often they don't. Often Americans are like, we don't hate rich people for being rich. We all aspire to be it. We believe in the American dream. And I think you're right that the difference is they won't hate you for being rich. They won't even hate you for getting rich. They won't even necessarily hate you for getting rich in a way that is, seems unethical or questionable. They'll still give you a shot. But if you do it at the expense of their opportunity to do better, that is really where it finally makes a difference, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I think, in some ways, we're a pretty gracious group.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, do you?
Yeah,
very American, do you? But don't mess with me. And it's starting to. The corruption is absolutely messing with people's lives now.
One place that we constantly just look to see what's the pulse of sort of right and the right-leaning independents is the Rogan podcast. And there are a couple of interesting moments from Shane Gillis, the comedian's appearance this past week on Rogan. Let's start with this first one about healthcare.
This communism's the gayest shit ever.
It's the worst.
Somebody needs to look into how gay communism is.
But isn't it crazy that it's making a comeback?
Yeah.
It always does. It's a cycle. There's a cycle.
The problem is if we cannot call it communism if we get free healthcare.
Right.
That would be a good move.
That would help a lot.
We're calling everybody communist that wants free healthcare.
Communist, and you're like,
free healthcare is cool.
Yeah.
We should have that.
It's normal.
Yeah. That's not communism.
We should have
Communism is
healthcare
no
and
private
education.
property.
Yeah.
You should treat the entire country like it's a community. If you have a community, would you want the sickest person to fucking die who could be very valuable if you could like take care of them? And do you have the resources to take care of them?
Of course you should. We're a
Take
rich
care of
country.
them. Exactly.
Do it with libraries. It's no big deal.
This is the problem with
We don't feel like a
capitalism.
community.
This is the reason why people turn on all these billionaires. They turn on them because why do you have so much when people have so little? But it's because it's the game. It's the game that they're playing. And you're playing the game too. You're just not playing it at that level.
That's the most Rogan clip that has ever Roganed. I mean, it's just,
I mean, the sunglasses, using the word gay like we're in high school again in the 90s.
Yeah. Was that a burp?
yeah, they're obviously all high.
No one takes credit for the burp. It just happens at the 8-second mark. I think there's two really important sentences in all of that. One is free healthcare is cool. No private property is bad. And that's it. We should have, we want to maintain a society that appreciates the value of private property, and the state not running everything. In fact, running very little, because it's the state and it doesn't know how to do many things. But there are certain things the state has to do. Providing healthcare to everybody is one of those things.
I remember when I was in college and trying to figure out what I thought about the world, and I took an economics class and I learned about the concept of a market failure and the idea that there are certain pieces of the economy that from a capitalist perspective are characterized as market failures because there is no way for private industry to provide that service in such a way that is actually equal and fair. And so I remember my professor used examples like that's why we have public schools, because if you just left it up to a capitalist economy to provide education exclusively, then you're going to have a failure of the market to provide actual education to every member of our society in a way that they can afford. And now that's like a pretty highfalutin way to talk about this stuff. So maybe we don't need to. I'm not looking for bumper stickers that say, healthcare is a market failure and therefore we need to socialize it. But I do think that is a way to talk about the idea of socializing certain things, saying, look, we should only look toward any form of government and government running something when it is clear that the market cannot do it in a way that works.
I think the language you gave was interesting around community, right? This is your community. You take care of people in your community. I thought that was really helpful. They also had a conversation about the very corruption that we were just discussing. And this is the clip that I think went far and wide. Let's jump to this.
Isn't he selling his Truth Social tweets to people and then they can bet on it?
What?
I think, yeah.
He can bet on anything.
He's selling access.
Yeah, selling access.
He's selling faster access to his tweets, and then you can bet on it.
Bet on what his tweets
on the markets. Because
wait a minute,
it's literally insider trading.
It's Kashi that you can bet on everything you can fix.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, is that real? You get access to a tweet before he makes it, and then you could bet on that tweet? How's that legal?
We'll see.
Wait a minute, what is this? Trump sued over Truth Social advance access sale.
I'm online in the Oval Office.
Who's telling him this is a good idea? I feel like I need to be closer to
$100,000 contracts.
Yeah, it's $100,000. You can get his early tweets.
Hey,
you know how crazy that is? $100,000 to get early tweets.
He bet $200 on
That's literally crazy.
It must piss you off so much when he tweets like
Truth Social's parent company, Trump Media, announced in July it would offer subscribers to Truth API who paid up to $100,000 each month. Oh my God! Not even just $100,000 a year, each month.
He's raking it
for
in.
Early access to market-moving posts from Trump and other people who use the platform.
Market moving.
You imagine you charge $1.2 million a year? He's just on a grab.
Oh yeah.
And to get that, it's just people who are like,
but who
profit off that?
I just want to be in the meeting where they go, "I got an idea."
And everyone looks at each other and is like,
Let's
should
do
we
it.
tell them no?
They go, look, everyone hates us anyway.
$100,000.
Fuck it.
I bet it wasn't even Trump. It was probably some weasel who works in the administration. It's like, charge them $100,000 a month, and you post things, and they can move the market.
Yikes!
What are
Just
we
another
doing?
form of the same shit.
First of all, it was definitely Trump who came up with
this
that
is
idea.
the one problem I have. Like, I'm glad. Like, first, shout out to Shane Gillis. He also had a lot of things to say that I thought were very interesting on that show. I do think it's good that they're elevating this in probably the largest audience in the world. But there's this constant infantilizing of Trump that he's not the one making these decisions. Like, he's the one. Like even if it were people around him, he's allowing it to happen. But we have every reason to believe that this is a direct result of Trump being Trump. Like, this is not some kind of rogue element within his administration.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things I was, one is that he, the people who are, trying to work these markets, the predictive markets, are very much a part of his orbit, and they've probably come to him and people around him saying, look, here's a good deal. We'll give you cash for your tweets. And that's probably, maybe Trump came up with it on his own or somebody from his orbit, but either way, whether it was him or the other side, everyone, this is a group of people, and he's the kind of guy that is going to prioritize this idea of making money, no matter the implications, no matter whether it's legal or not, whether it's ethical or not, whether it's going to hurt people or not. He as Rogan said, he's on a grab. Like, he's obsessed with becoming the wealthiest, politician ever, person. He wants to be, a multi-billionaire, and that's what matters most. And so that's what's driving his decisions. And it's unbridled at the moment. There's just nothing holding him back.
Greg, did I read right that your district was redistricted in such a way that they're trying to get rid of you?
Yeah. So we won, and it was always gerrymandered for the Republican incumbent, but it was starting to sort of move away. And we won in 22. We beat the guy who'd been there for 30 years by 5 points. And then we turned around and won in 2024 by 10. And so they, I think, appreciating that they could not win without cheating, decided that they would further gerrymander the district. And now it's, a Trump plus several points. He won this district by several points. But I think they're going to have a hard time, winning this year. And ultimately, for members of Congress who go home and organize and work their tails off and do constituent services, and this, like, if you're really good at, like, being a representative, not a member of Congress, but a rep, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, people tend to want to hold on to those folks.
Well, just to make sure that you can stay there, tell people how they can help. And also, I think your staff mentioned that you have a podcast too, so feel free to plug that as well.
Yeah, I do a podcast with the New Dems. It's a coalition within the Democratic caucus called the New Dems, and we're the biggest ideological caucus, 115 members, and we do a podcast most weeks called The Fly-In. I do it with a guy named Mark Veazey from Texas, member of Congress from Texas, and you can get it wherever you get your podcast, The Fly-In, and it's sort of behind the scenes, what's happening on the Hill from our perspective. And then people can follow me anywhere, Greg Landsman, and obviously, I could use all the help I can get.
Hey, well, you did a great job. So thanks for coming on. And
I appreciate what you guys do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I've been a huge fan, for a long time.
Well, now we're fans too, man. So thank you very much. And, we'll see you around, and good luck.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right.
All right, man. What's happening in your world?
I'm reading your book, and it's really good. And I'm excited to do this event. How is that for
oh, thank you, man.
For a pivot? No, but it is really good. And yeah, that's a lot of what's happening. It's funny. Whenever I think about these, like, socialist or not socialist or whatever conversations, or like whether to use the word, we're mostly, because Diana's career has been going so well, we're doing the best we've ever done. And as like, we've thought about things like, should we build a house? Don't know if we're going to, that kind of stuff. And every time we do, I I end up having a conversation. We end up having a conversation with like our financial advisors, and which we have. It's just 45 is different than 35 was for me.
Yeah.
We have financial advisors, and all this is in a way of saying it's interesting that when you start to have a little bit more money, you start to learn about truly how unfair the tax system is for people who have any money. Because I like my financial advisors a lot. They're great people, and they're only trying to do a really good job for their clients. But every time they say like, "Oh, we got to tell you about this thing that is really great. You're going to love, this is so great. You can do this." And it is great for us in most cases. And I'm thinking, and I'll say, that is ridiculous. That should not work that way. You shouldn't be able to do that. And so it just is interesting how the better off we are financially, the more, the more we give to charity, which I guess I'll give us credit for that, but the more convicted I am that the system is so not fair, because the better you're doing, the easier it is to just keep doing better and better.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And when the market's popping like it does now, like the combination of if you own your house, plus have a lot of money in the stock market, everything's appreciating larger than what people make in a year. So the people who are locked out of assets continue to struggle. Everything like healthcare and housing gets more expensive. But if you are locked into some of those assets, like the stock market and houses, you can kill it. And that's just that's just what it means to live in 2026. It's fascinating.
And I say it to say, like, Diana and I talk about this a lot. It's not like I'm therefore like, we shouldn't have any of this money we have. It's just like going from once you get to this level of the atmosphere, going to the next level is so much easier than it was to go from like a middle level to the one above it. And that's what I just think needs to change, right? At the end of the day, it's just like we're making it easier for the wrong people.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah.
Not to say it should be harder for them. It should just be easier for the others.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Yeah, I think that there's, when we get down to it, I do think that like there's a lot of common ground in the goals of a lot of people within the Democratic Party, and probably independents and Republicans for that matter. I think it's just the means that people are debating when they put down their sort of culture war swords, which I think the culture wars distract us from some of these bigger questions. Some of the culture war questions are important, but a lot of them I think are overblown,
For example, I was thinking, when we listen to that Rogan clip, and it starts with Shane Gillis
making a gay
yeah. And I was thinking about how probably 2 years ago, if that clip plays and we're doing this show, I think we feel a lot more compelled to say something about the use of that word for that. And I think what's changed is two things. One, I think everybody kind of understands where we all are on that. Like one thing is we've said it, and it's like, okay, he's going to do that. I feel like the audience knows that you and I would not use that word that way and don't need, but I at the same time think that the rest of what he says is important enough that we shouldn't get distracted by, like, if that's how Shane Gillis wants to talk, like, I don't approve of it, but I'm not going to take my eye off the ball and lose the opportunity to say, like, okay, but this thing he's saying about healthcare makes sense and we should amplify that. So it's just like, I think back to like last week or whatever it was when we played the clip of AOC talking about woke one versus, I feel like it's like our values haven't changed, but our eye is on the ball a little more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, yeah, it's like, who benefits, right? Like, we got to get the Shane Gillises to vote D, and then gay people benefit, poor people benefit, everybody benefits, right? That material change is more important than us lecturing him on a podcast that he's not listening to, the virtual signal to our audience who knows that we support gay rights, right? That's how I feel about that. But I get it. Well, okay. On my end, I've been doing this physical therapy. I actually just saw you the other day on my way back from physical therapy. It's like it's me and these old women basically. And we just sit around all day. It's like in prison. It's like, what are you in here for? I'm in here for this and all that. And I'm like curling 1 pound weights. And it's like such a change from where I've been. But I really enjoy my time. And I was telling you a little bit about this when we met up, but I signed up I finally just paid the tuition as a way to motivate myself to take this PT seriously in the spring from March to the end of May to attend a fire school. I won't say where yet because who knows? I don't want to
get kicked out of it.
I don't want to get kicked out of it, but especially given where it is. But I signed up and was accepted to Fire Academy somewhere. I'm going to learn to be a firefighter in the spring. All things like, assume everything works out and I'm able to preserve that time off. But I signed up knowing that a lot of things would have to go right for me to attend it. But because it would motivate me to take my PT seriously, but also I've just been having this sort of AI-driven crisis where I'm like a knowledge worker / writer / podcaster. And I'm like, I don't have tangible skills that are gonna endure in this period of time. And so it just makes me sleep better at night to be like, okay, and not too long from now, I'll be doing this thing that, robots are not fighting those fires for a while, so I'll at least emerge with a durable skill set when the bots are writing our books for us and recording our podcasts and all that. So yeah, that's what I did. And my mom is listening to this probably going crazy because I haven't talked to her about this, but and my goal is to be a fire jumper one day as more of like an exercise in public service, not as a job necessarily, but where like, seasonally there's the wildfires out west. This is the first step. So I get like the normal firefighter and EMT certification. And then I have to go to another school eventually to do that level of firefighting. And that's the goal,
Very in keeping with your book, which is like all that stuff when you were 12, you thought you were going to do when you grew up, and then you decided not to. I'm actually going to learn how to be a firefighter. Also, I think it's a great point. I'm thinking about what skills do I have that are not on that end and are just like practical. And really everything I have that is in that category is the stuff I learned in the Army, which is basic. And I'm 45 now. So I guess if I had to, I could go back in the Army, or I suppose that's like a law enforcement or security job. So that's like, I'm not handy around the house. I can't fix things. I'm
with you. I feel like I was worried the past couple of months because I've been sitting around kind of like leaning into influencer culture a little bit, but not like with my whole heart, because it's not like a natural fit for me. And I was like, if I don't start committing to more tactile life experiences again, which obviously I did last year with cooking and all that, but whenever I step outside of that, I feel like I'm playing a part that is not natural to me, which is like staring at a phone, talking to the camera, and I like Substacking, I like podcasting and all that, but I only like doing it when I'm reflecting back something that's happening outside of it that makes my life interesting. But if I'm just ginning up things from a screen, I feel like I'm losing my own enthusiasm, and I was like, I've got to push myself back out there.
There's a parasitic element to that. I mean, it is a kind of work that can only exist to as a parasite to other things, right? Like that's why for both of us, this commentary, podcasting gig, for neither of us is it our main, thing that we do. And thank goodness, because if all I did for a living was comment on what other people did, that would drive me crazy. I would not enjoy that. So it would feel parasitic and rather than productive. So
we just got the updated link, by the way, for our event. Cool. So
let's see.
Why don't you tweet it out afterwards? I'll tweet it out afterwards. I'll update my website. So for the people who are not listening live, you'll actually go to an updated page for our event.
Yeah, there it is. It looks like the thing. Okay, so it's Majority 54 live in Kansas City at Unity Temple on the Plaza on Monday, September 28th. So about a month from now, a little more than a month from now. So that'll be fun. Awesome. Everybody go out there.
Yeah, I'll throw it on Insta now and invite you as a collaborator. And folks, I'd love to see you. I love Kansas City. We're all getting older, just like our football teams, so it'll be good to be
I wonder, let's see, what's the schedule? Are the Chiefs playing the day before? We should. I mean, let's do it live right here.
I wanna exercise my demons from that stadium, but let's see.
Chiefs schedule 2026. September 27th. Is it home or away? It's the Dolphins. Chiefs versus Dolphins. This looks to be. Is it in Kansas City? Poor people who are listening to this.
It's the 27th.
Yeah.
I might be in Chattanooga that day. Hold on, let me see.
Also,
I'm in Chattanooga the day before.
And it's in Miami anyway.
Yeah,
so no go.
Thrilling podcasting. But okay.
Yeah,
well, I can't wait to see you, Kansas City folks. All
right.
We'll be there.
Good deal. Okay. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you to Congressman Greg Landsman. Please leave a 5-star review. Not him specifically, all of you. He's busy. He doesn't have time for that. Thank you to the Midas Mighty. And remember, we all have a platform. Make sure to use yours today.